All right, I'm sitting here with a man who needs no introduction, but please, for our viewers, can you tell us who I'm sitting with today?
So I'm Wilford Lamastus Jr. I am the fourth generation of the Lamastus Family Estates. My family has been growing coffee since 1918.
Wow.
And I've been in the coffee industry since 2012. But I grew up around the coffee farms with my grandfather, with my father. But it was a completely different environment in terms of coffee, not specialty. But I saw the evolution as a kid, then as a teenager. I am the founder of Sisu Coffee Studios, which is the new evolution of the Lamastus Family Estates.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. Let's start, Wilford, let's start at the farm.
Okay.
You grew up in Boquete.
I grew up in Boquete, yes.
You grew up right there on the farm or very close to. What is that like growing up? You know, that's so foreign to me. What is it like growing up in a coffee region, in a coffee family as a fourth generation coffee producer?
You know, as a kid, I never thought about it. I never thought about like how cool it was when I was growing up. When we were young, every time like we were gonna go on a trip, we had a vacation, we wanna earn a toy, my sister and I, my father would always say, oh, you gotta pick some coffee. You gotta pick some coffee. So we'll get these small buckets and we'll be picking the coffee, all pintones.
Okay.
But you know, we tried. So it was that was the boring part that I didn't like. But on the other side, I love going to the mills. Like I love creating my own adventure in my mind in the mills, like the pergamino coffee when it was already dry. Like we'll play around that, and I think it was a pretty fun environment. And it was something that my grandfather got me close to my grandfather, and also got me close to my father. And you know, when I was younger, my father was more into the working mode, while my grandfather was already more into less work mode. So every time I would go to the farm, it meant to hang out a lot with my grandfather. So me being the only boy, I went way more than my cousins and my sister. So it was a pretty fun environment around nature, running around the trees. The best part was playing with the coffee, the dried pergamino coffee.
Okay.
But now if you go into farms, it's mostly like raised beds, smaller beds, thinner layers. Back then, they used to put the coffee like in these huge pools, like full of coffee, like probably my height back then. But the cool thing is that there was a kids movie back then. There was like a rich dog that will swim into the coins, and I will pretend I was doing the same. That was so cool. That's a pretty important part of my childhood. Yeah.
You're like 8 years old, 10 years old at this
probably
point?
I started since I was 5 years old, all the way until I was 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm picturing, for me, the comparison would be in fall, autumn time, raking a pile of leaves in the front yard and kind of diving into that.
Yeah, it was something like that. And then I will come to my house full of coffee in the shoes, in the pockets. Yeah.
Oh, fun. Can you tell me a little bit about, you referenced your father and your grandfather. Can you tell me a little bit about each of them as individuals, who they were for you growing up, and what, coffee legacy they've maybe left behind?
So my grandfather was more of the farmer style person. He was very into like, he was a farmer, local guy from the farm, old school minded, very loving grandfather, extremely loving grandfather. He loved riding his truck around his grandkids. His personality was very calm, less intense than my father. He was a lot more like a countryman, like a real countryman.
Okay.
Very loving guy, very helpful, very friendly, very community oriented. And his personality was different to my father's personality. So there was a different relationship between me and him than me and my father. But they were very close. My father and my grandfather, they were very close. They admired each other a lot. Of course, my uncles, they all looked up to my grandfather, but kind of in the personalities, it was very similar. But my grandfather was a handyman, He could fix everything. He actually built my cousins and my sister and myself wooden house. Like he will build them himself. He will come and he will build the whole houses, big, nice houses.
Wow.
Pretty cool. So I always saw him like this guy capable of doing everything.
Okay.
But he never spoke like too much coffee to me, Like for him, coffee was like a way of living, but it was a commercial style of doing it.
This is before the specialty era
This is
sort
before
of
the
kicked
specialty
off.
coffee, and actually he was part of the evolution of specialty coffee, but he was sidelined
Okay.
when that happened. He was still the owner and the boss, but he knew that he didn't have the knowledge and he wasn't in the learning loop. My father was on the learning loop, so from him, I learned about work ethic. I learned about family, but I did not learn much about coffee because the way he saw coffee was completely different than my father.
Okay.
And my father evolved.
Interesting.
So now I come to my father. My father had a whole evolution, from getting big trucks of coffee into the recibideros where they receive the sherries of coffee, or getting the like I mentioned earlier, the big pools of Oro coffee, Pergamino coffee, to specializing. And remember, he's one of the first few people that started this evolution. So he was learning along the way with very, very few people back then. So I saw the whole evolution. And then he started talking about coffee in a different way. And I witnessed that. I was younger, but I was very close to him and I always listened to him. So when it came to, being a farmer, we started being a craftsman,
Okay.
Like the way his language started changing, the way he was thinking about, visiting coffee shops, learning about this, learning about that. It was pretty cool. And then from him, I started getting coffee. Now remember, of course, I'm a young boy. Then I start getting into the teenage years. So when I'm 11 years old is when the auction starts. That was a big moment, a big talking point for him, a big thing that he was talking about all the time.
The auction being the best of Panama.
The best of Panama auction,
Yeah.
exactly. And then you have the La Elida winning first place in the early years. And then now you are not just a farmer, you're becoming something else, but you don't know what it is. And then Geisha happens. I'm 14 years old, and I remember this moment very well. The way my father was excited, it looked like the coffee was his. But then we are all hearing this, and we are getting embedded completely into this. And he turned into a hardworking guy, like into his livelihood. Because my father has always been very hard worker, but he's hard worker because it's a responsibility for him to provide for his family. Now it started being like his life, his way of life. And you know him, and people who know him or have heard from him can see it that way. But I saw the whole evolution.
Right.
And that got into me. But at the beginning, not at the same way as it did when I was older. Because there's something very important. Even though we were very successful in terms of the outcome of our coffees, being in terms of quality and championships and the reception it was getting from the customers, it didn't mean economical success.
Right.
So when I was finishing my high school years, starting my university years, my belief was there's no room for me to grow here economically. So I must think of something else, though I feel very proud of what I have, of what my family is accomplishing. So, I want to learn as much as possible, but this is not a future I might have here. So, but I saw my father in a very proud way. And then he was doing the side business back then. He was working on the window business, and he was doing windows parallel to coffee, and he will be Panama City, Boquete all the time. And you can tell that windows was something for him to provide for his family, but he had no passion in it. But he will do it determined. He's determined in everything. Like my father's determination to do things are crazy. Like he got really, really, really sick. And the moment he found out he was really sick, he was like, I'm gonna get out of it. Like, don't even cry. Because I remember it was very hard for me and my family. He's like, don't even cry. Right now, he got a book immediately about, like everything he did is like, no, we're gonna overcome this. And then in my family's lifetime, my father, there was lost land, lost for repossession or for sales.
Okay.
A lot of land was lost, and it was moments of crisis that you don't know what's gonna be next, because there was not a specialty coffee boom like it is right now. But every time he was like, hey, back up, doesn't matter. So that is the characteristic of my father that is completely different from my grandfather. Though he was a hard worker, it was not the same like no. I'm gonna get back from this. I'm gonna be so much better than I was before. So he's still like this, and I think that he doesn't understand the level of accomplishments he has right now. I don't think he understands what he represents to an industry, but at the same time, I don't think he thinks there's limits to anything that he goes. So his personality is much more like, oh, we will go far, and I don't know why, and I don't know how, but we will go far.
I love that.
And I think that part of the reason that he doesn't know what he accomplishes is because he's always thinking of, oh, there's so much more to accomplish. That I think that's what doesn't allow him to understand that what he represents to the industry.
Right. He doesn't settle for where he's at right now. That's yesterday. Tomorrow's coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go. Let's prepare. Let's prepare. Yeah. Your dad is somebody I admire very much in the industry. I have no idea how he has the energy, to continue and just persevere through all the different shows he does, through all the clients he hosts, through all the actions he's taken. It's incredible. Your dad is quite the guy.
That's the motivation. I think that's motivation, what gets him there.
Between your grandfather and your father, where would you align your personality, your perspective, your drive for coffee?
I think my drive comes from my father, but my father and I were opposites.
Okay.
Personality-wise, we're opposites, and the way we do things are opposites.
Okay.
Like he will be the grinder, like the extreme grinder, and I will be more of a getting ideas of, but in terms of drive and competitiveness, I think we're exactly the same. Like we are extremely competitive to ways that I don't think is unhealthy. We're right in the line of making it unhealthy.
Okay.
But something is like, we are extreme optimists, both of us, very optimist. And sometimes people tell me like, if you get your hopes too much, then if you don't accomplish this, it's gonna hurt a lot. I'm like, I'm willing to deal with that. And I'm sure my father's really, really the same. So our identities are embedded in coffee, and our identities are in the competitiveness of what we can accomplish. And when I say this, I don't mean only in Best of Panama accomplishments, but in our legacy, how we can, stamp it. And I think that we share, but the way we do it is completely different. The way we think of getting there is completely different. And I think that the fact that both of us are together, it's a perfect combination, because he is much more a grinder and I'm much more of strategic.
Okay.
And I think it's a perfect combination to work together.
And tell me a little bit about your business. We're sitting in a Sisu coffee shop as we record this. Tell me a little bit about the business you're operating here in Panama City, and how has this again changed the perspective of Lamastus Family Estates 10, 20 years from now? What will the next generation, what will your son say should he be sitting in this conversation? How will he describe you versus your father or your grandfather?
Well, the first thing is that we opened a coffee shop my father is a fan of tourism. He believes in tourism too much. He's from Panama, he's from Boquete. He likes people visiting. He gets proud of people visiting his hometown. So we didn't open in Boquete, but we opened in the old city, a coffee shop. It was a very small coffee shop, not designed. It was basically his and mine. And we had great coffee, but besides it, there was nothing else to offer.
I went there once.
Oh, you went there once,
yeah.
So, but we had a nice location, but besides that, it was a very basic place, and you can have a great cup of coffee, but nothing else. So when my grandfather started getting older, and he wasn't able to, do day-to-day operations, my father started moving away from the coffee shop. So I started taking over more into the coffee shop. And we were doing also like wholesale roasting business. And it was fun, but at the end of the day, we were not representing what we really thought about our coffees. And then we have coffees that we export, green coffee, we export to excellent buyers. And taste-wise, they're all excellent, but sometimes you lose control of your brand, of your name, of your product.
You're talking on the export.
In the export, especially in countries that you export to the middle people, and then the middle people will distribute around coffee shops or micro roasters. So sometimes it's not what you picture your product to be in represented. So, I had the coffee shop during COVID. There was like a forced closing. Then when we had to reopen, I was uninspired completely. So I decided, let's close this down. I remember the guy from Lo Que Hay, a great restaurant from Panama. When things were getting back to normal, he told me this is the best moment to do crazy things and nobody will judge you because people understand this is COVID happened. So I'm like, you know what, I'm closing this. And then there was this place in the old city, a corner place in the entrance. And somebody had offered me to see that place before and I didn't pay attention. Then I ran into the guy. He told me, hey, just see it, no compromise, just to see if you want to do something about it with this place. This is the most visited area of Panama City, a part of the Panama Canal. So the majority of the people will go in through there. So probably 90% of the people, that's the entrance they take. And probably 70% of the people, that's the exit they take. And it's a corner.
Sounds like a great location.
The only thing I thought about in that moment, I think I'm very egocentric. I think it helps sometimes. I thought about, this is a corner. This is where I can put my name, Lamastus Family Estates. I didn't even knew what name I was going to use. But I knew the coffee shop was not going to be named Lamastus Family Estates.
Right.
But I knew I was going to be able to put it in the corner. And it's the only thing that motivated me to do that. But
You're paying for the billboard.
I'm talking about that.
Like you're paying for the marketing opportunity.
Yeah, Lamastus Family Estates.
Okay.
I ran this place. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Okay.
It was too big. In my mind, it was too big back then. Because, we are coming out of COVID. We don't know how things are going to be going to be after this. But I'm half the fortune. It's half fortune, half strategy. I married this wonderful and super creative girl. And she knows how to create a brand. She knows how to create a concept. She knows how to create. So she did, are you sure you're going to do this? I'm like, yes. But this time, it's not going to be with my father. It's going to be myself and you. I was just recently married. But of course, it's going to be with the backup of my father, with my father's knowledge, my brand's knowledge, my family's. So let's do it. And she started creating the project. And I had a potential business partner back then because I was afraid to do it alone. But at the same time, I was afraid to do it with somebody else because I'm representing my family. I'm representing my product and my livelihood, not somebody else's. Other people is going to think only in profit. So my wife started showing me ideas. She's a very night owl. She will start working very hard in the night. I was asleep, and then I wake up early. I will wake up early. I'm like, I will have my phone full of things and ideas she'll send me. I'm like, nice. Wow, I love this. And then I'm like, okay, I don't need anybody else. I can work with her. So we created the whole concept for Sisu. She created it, actually. Well, okay. I got a lot of input. But the idea of this is, we wanna deliver the experience of Sisu the way we see our coffees. When we got the Best of Panama highest prize, which was a record back then, we got a CNN guy, Richard Quest, came to the place and he did this is the place where they have the most expensive coffee in the world. But the place didn't look like the most expensive coffee in the world. I'm like, we have to do something that if somebody tells you...
This is at Bajareque.
It's in Bajareque.
Shop, okay.
Yeah, so I'm going back to Bajareque now. I'm going back to Sisu. What I'm building now is if you are going to come to this place and they tell you this family had the most expensive coffee ever, it has to look like it,
Sure.
And then that's something that inspired me into building this. And of course, the fact that we were in COVID, the landlord from Bajareque, they behaved very well to us. They were very helpful to allow us to, just cut the contract and move on. They were very helpful, so that helped a lot. But that's what inspired me. But you know what? It's the craziest part of Sisu. Now we're in Sisu number 2. This is the second place we opened. When I decided to do Sisu, I'm like, I'm in a corner in a very busy part, very representative area of Panama for tourists, for locals, for expats. So everybody comes around here.
Right.
Every single age, every single, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's working class, if it's wealthy people, everybody goes there. So I think this is a very representative of our brand. And at the end of the day, I think that it's affordable enough to get a great geisha coffee in our coffee shop. I'm not saying it's cheap, of course, but people can do it once, many months. So it's a service to our people, it's a service to our visitors, and it's a way that I feel proud of serving my coffee. And then I get this guy. There's a very popular architect from Panama, probably the biggest one in Central America. He's the father, now the son, so it's a family like ours. They also have the last name in the brand. He goes with his wife to have breakfast in Sisu. And I knew of him. Maybe I met him once or twice. And then he said, like, dude, this place is really beautiful. I love it. You know, coming from this architect with such high reputation, telling me this, I'm like, oh, I felt very proud. I knew it was a really cool place, but I felt proud that he told me. It's like, my building has a furniture store that is moving out. So we have a space that we want you to see in order to probably open one of these there. I'm like, dude, I just invested a lot of money in this. So you know what? I might see it. Now, my father uses this term a lot. We are designers of coffee flavors. Designers of coffee flavors. He kept saying we design the coffee. And when he says he designed the coffee, we had the auction of 2021, which was our first auction. The idea was to carry that term, design of coffee. My wife is by career a graphical designer. So the whole, designing into the flavors, designing into a brand, not only the product. So when he says this to me, and he has a well-designed building, a great design background, and a great design reputation, and then he shows me the project. It's like, you're gonna be next to these designers, for lighting, for marble, for furniture. I'm like, you know what? This sounds like, that design that I keep talking about. So let's do it. So we decided to open the second location, and I love it. It's beautiful. It's completely different to the other one,
right,
although they share elements. So, it felt like we're into something. Now we're gonna open the third one. Hopefully when people visit Panama in the World of Coffee, we're gonna be ready. Hopefully when they visit Panama in Best of Panama, we're gonna be ready. And the third one is in the suburbs, which is gonna be also a great design, sharing elements, but different. So I think that we're, offering 3 different zones of Panama: downtown, touristic, old city, and the suburbs, in a very good way that represents our brand. So that's why I decided to do this brand. And I think it's an evolution of the Lamastus Family Estates, but I am still a coffee grower and a green coffee exporter.
Has having a coffee shop and a roastery now attached to the brand and the farm and the production, has it changed your perspective or changed your family's perspective on how coffee works now that you handle it all the way start to finish?
100%. Everything changes in the way we understand our customers, We understand our customers better. We know what we want better. We know who is the right people that, work with us better.
Okay.
Now we're not thinking about just the one who buys the most, but the ones that are doing the right work. They have a plan, they have a brand, they have, they are working
quality focus,
exactly.
Okay.
Now that helped a lot. And that started, in reality, that started when I started competing in Brewers Cup.
Okay.
That started helping us in the perception, because we went out of, just a touristic coffee shop, more into, something into a brand, something into the experience more than anything.
Right. Tell me about the 3-time, I'm sitting with the 3-time Panamanian Brewers Cup champion. Tell me a little bit about that experience and again, how that perspective, comes in. You're from a coffee producing family. As a competitor, you have to use your family's coffee, yeah. I imagine. You don't have to, but you feel the need to. Tell me a little bit, why did you get up on stage and compete? What did that mean to you? What did that mean to your family?
So I'm going to tell you 2 important things about Brewers Cup.
Okay.
I want to tell you first that I misunderstood Brewers Cup because Brewers Cup is about brewing the coffee, the technique you use, and how you go into what you are offering, describing it, and making a great cup. but I thought more about the farm side.
Okay. Yeah.
What comes before you start brewing, you grind the coffee. So I started thinking that was my mentality back then. But I think it helped a lot understanding more about what is a brewer, what the brewer does, what the barista does, and what we offer to them. And of course, one time I thought about, what if I switch coffees into the finals for a one that is not mine? But then I didn't do it because at the end of the day, I'm here for this. I'm here to represent our brand. And I competed 4 times. The first one I got second place. And then I got first, 3 times on a row first. And then I went to the Worlds. And the Worlds is pretty cool because you meet a lot of people, you work with a lot of people, you learn from these people, you are in the backstage hanging out with other professionals from different backgrounds, and it's pretty cool. But also it makes you understand, like, dude, you can make the best coffee in the farm, you can get the best green, but then what happens afterwards is super important as well. And at the same time, these roasters and these baristas and the people that take care of the coffee bag and they do the proper work, they can enhance your work so much better if they do it right. So that's why that's how you find the right partnerships. And the years of competing was pretty cool, although I got extremely exhausted because traveling, practicing, not being able to enjoy the cities you travel to. Actually, the reason I retired was because it's addictive. You know it. It's addictive. But when I finished Melbourne, the next World Championship was announced to be at. So Melbourne is in September.
In Athens.
Yeah, so Melbourne is September. I have competition hangover that I always had.
Yeah, Melbourne is 2022.
Yeah, so that lasts around 2 months or a month and a half.
Yeah.
But I already knew Athens was going to be in
June
of 2023. And then we found out my wife was expecting a baby and that the birthday
we got to retire.
Was going to be around that time. And then I'm like, okay, this gives me the break of not competing for 2023. So I can relax now. When the competition for 2023 was going to happen, the Panama one, they invited me to be a demo barista.
Okay.
And when I got to be a demo barista, I'm like, I don't want to do this again. Like, really, I don't want to do this again. So that's when I really decided I was going to retire.
Okay. Do you find from doing that, it went back into, producing better coffee and better understanding of what happens on the farm? The
base of our processing techniques came out of there.
Okay.
Came out of the fact that we wanted to do things differently. And that same way made us understand, let's go and ferment coffee more. But at the same way, it made us, because the good thing about it happening, it was a span of 4 years because of COVID.
Yeah.
When we got to the 2023, we were in the position of, oh no, now we don't want to show high fermentation. We now want to show clarity and cleanness and florals. Right. So the whole thing, created our own spectrum of what we want to offer. And I think that was the key to our auction.
Okay.
Because, everything we tried, everything we thought about doing, now we want to reflect it in the auction because I can only serve one coffee.
Right. And
just a set of judges are going to taste it and a few friends. But no, how am I going to offer a wide variety of coffees that we thought about? But, and that's where you see the first auction we did was a bunch of colors and because we were trying to show, from the more floral to the more fermented to the fruits. So the whole spectrum was the idea that I got from Brewers Cup to expand in our thing. That when we were doing the Brewers Cup is when my father coined the term ASD.
Yeah.
Which is now very popular.
Right, anaerobic slow dry.
Yeah.
Tell me about the portfolio of coffee. How as a coffee producer do you, your father, the team at Lamastus Family Estates, how do you decide what types of coffee to grow? I believe you have Geisha, Ketwai, Typica.
Well, that's a great question, and it has a little bit of a historical context.
Okay.
We have a variety of coffees we offer due to history. So Typica comes from my grandfather's time, my great grandfather's time. Sorry, not my grandfather, great
So
grandfather's
this is
time.
generation one.
Some of these coffees have 80 years old or more than 80 year old trees.
Wow.
When specialty coffee wasn't a thing, that farm produced onions, and there was other productions. There was a gentleman from Boquete that told my father, don't just get rid of all the coffee, leave some, because coffee is gonna make a comeback. And that guy, his name is Edgardo Miranda. He's a known botanist from Boquete,
Okay.
and his son is a famous musician from Panama.
Okay.
So he told my father that, and he was right. He made a comeback. So he had the Typica trees that we still keep. Then there was a huge burst into Panama of Catuai because it's a great variety. It's tasty. It has resistance. The size is good for picking. Remember, back then people were not willing to prune the coffee because they will think that if they prune the coffee, they'll lose productivity. So some trees, like the Typica trees, will grow so high that people will use ladders to pick. So,
right, and then they bend them, and
Exactly.
they're 4 or 5 meters tall.
So Catuai doesn't grow like that. So Catuai is a productive plant. It doesn't grow as tall. So there was a big. There's still the majority of the coffee around Panama, Catuai and Caturra, which are family. So we have a lot of Catuai because of that, and we have Geisha because 2004 happened. So that's the reason we have those 3 varieties.
Okay.
There's not any strategy behind it. Actually, I'm gonna call my father on this one. I'm gonna throw him under the bus. He wanted to get rid of all the Catuai, and back then he listens. It's hard, but he listens. It doesn't mean that now I can tell him what to do. Well, probably he knows that I have more experience than I had back then, so he will be a little bit more willing to listen to me. But I was like, don't do that. That's crazy. Do not do it. Now it's a little bit different, the market. You know it very well. There's a lot of people that would buy the small Panama lots, Geisha lots, and now there's a lot of people that will buy 5, 10, 15 kilograms. But back then it was like bigger orders. So the bigger order, the excuse to get the bigger order, if you want to get 23 or 100 kilos of Geisha coffee, you will have to get a bunch of coffee first. That will be
Oh, I have to buy Catuai in order to access the Geisha.
Yeah. No. That was not like a strict rule, but that was the way the market saw it.
Okay.
And I'm like, we cannot get rid of the Geisha, of the Catuai. It's crazy. We cannot only do Geisha. But he thought about this a lot. His numbers were right, Geisha,
Right.
The production versus the price. But at the end of the day, it's more about, expanding your brand. Our Catuai Natural made us famous. I really believe that we got to expand our name in the market because our Catuai Natural was very special, and there was not many naturals around the world back then being exported. So we kept the Catuai. Thankfully, he listened to us. But there's no strategy, But now we started planting other varieties. It's gonna take a few years, but that's the only thing we have in the farm right now. So our catalog is very simple: Typica, Catuai, and Geisha. Now, our catalog expands to our farms. We have El Burro, Elida, that are the older ones. And now we got Luito, Lulo, that it's coming soon.
Okay.
And then we have another farm that doesn't have a name yet. We call it Trompo because the region is called Trompo.
Oh, okay. But
it doesn't have a name yet. We haven't assigned it a name yet. But this Trompo farm, it's very high. It's 2150. It's very, very high. And we have great expectations from this farm. It's growing nicely.
Can you describe it to us a little bit? How do we get there?
We
Whereabouts is it?
We haven't tasted anything from this.
Can you describe
How do
the
we
farm
get there?
itself,
Okay.
though? Whereabouts is it?
It's on the way to the Baru volcano.
Okay.
For people that like to do the trip to the Baru volcano, there's a famous place on the way to the Baru volcano called Oasis. They have zip line, they have restaurants. So it's on the way to Oasis. That's the way you get to that farm, which is pretty high. It's pretty cool. The view is beautiful. And then you have our farm in the Sendero de los Quetzales, which is the Lulo farm. That farm historically represents a very nice. There's two farms in that way. We have Lulo and Luito.
Okay.
Luito is my uncle, who may rest in peace. He passed away in 2014. He was a trout producer, and his first trout farm was on that way, in the Sendero de los Quetzales. So his farm to get there was an adventure. And now it's not all the way to the end where his farm was, but it's on the way. So
Okay.
we have a great memory going there. But it's a very remote area where it's believed to be very humid. So nobody has grown coffee there yet. We are the first ones to grow coffee there.
Because you're all the way north, that's getting all the
It's
Caribbean.
very, very north. It's the
Caribbean
northernmost
influence.
farm in Panama. And this
Okay.
farm doesn't go as high as 2,000 plus, but it goes around 1,900, the majority of the farm.
Wow.
But 1,900 there is unique. Because at the end of the day, of course, my father will tell you altitude is everything. I will tell you altitude is the majority. I can believe that there are specific differences that shows each farm. This farm is very unique. The humidity will make a pain to grow coffee there, but at the same time, it will make uniqueness in the cup. Each cup is gonna be so unique. And the few coffees we've tasted from there are just, I love them. I think for now, it's my favorite coffees I've tasted.
Oh, wow.
My father doesn't say the same because he's linked to the what is geisha supposed to taste like, you know?
Okay, okay.
So I am a little bit more open. I'm like, let me taste. So that coffee is very unique. It has unique characteristics. Some people will hate them, some people will love them, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be.
What's an example of a unique characteristic for you?
How do I explain to you? You know, it has some like Kenyan-like attributes on steroids.
Okay, so like a bright, juicy acidity
Yeah.
type of idea.
And then you have a lot of nougat in it.
Okay.
You have it's not the classical, red fruit, jasmine-like flavor. It's a little bit different. There's
Okay.
a lot of lemongrass, but represented in a different way that will you get the lemongrass in Elida, for example. So it's a very different farm. Now, at the same time, our farm El Burro is the southernmost farm in Panama. So it's
Okay.
the closest one to the Pacific Ocean.
Right.
Well, now it's for the viewers. It's a very narrow, so it doesn't mean too much. It's not
Right,
like
right.
it's super far, but it's very narrow. Yeah, the mountain range is very narrow, but at the same time we have very north, very close to Caribbean, very south, very close to the Pacific. They behave super differently. If you see a seed from a northern farm, it's huge, and then you see it from the southern part, it's tiny, and it comes from the same nursery. So that shows you how the water activity can affect the seed when it comes from the seedling into the farms. And the flavors are different, of course. El Burro will be a little bit more, consistent instead of more exotic, but it's
Okay.
still really good. But that representation of farms for us is beautiful because we have, in our catalog, we have, the three different origins, the one from Lulo and Luito, the one from Elida, and the one from El Burro, in just our family representing completely different areas of the mountain range that represents the
How do you
region.
define those areas? You have Potrerillos, El Burro,
Potrerillos.
Alto Kiel, of
Alto
course,
Kiel.
for Elida.
Elida
Elida is Alto Kiel.
is Alto Kiel, yes.
The Quetzales,
The Sendero de los Quetzales, which I think it's Bajo Mono area.
maybe Bajo Mono.
Yeah.
And Trompo,
That's the name of the area, Trompo.
that's the name of the area.
She's
Okay.
on the way to the volcano.
Okay.
Yeah. Now that I have no idea what the taste will be because I haven't tasted anything. That's newer. The trees are newer, and I think it's gonna be a while. So I'm not getting my hopes up yet. But yeah, now our Elida farm, the lots are growing, which I believe it's something beautiful to see because from that farm you can have many different, catalogs,
Right.
which will represent different styles. Now, you think altitude is everything, yes, but at the same time, you have aguacates characteristics versus vuelta characteristics, which is basically the same altitudes, but it's different coffees. Maybe because of the sun. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. But maybe because of the sun, maybe because of the winds, maybe because of shades or other microorganisms you have around. But it's beautiful to have the same farm just a few kilometers or even less than a few kilometers representing the different tastes. I think that we have a blessing to have those farms.
Yeah, of course.
And we are blessed that we inherited that farm. That property today, it's priceless. Right. And our grandfather got it to us. So we're happy that we had that luck.
Yeah. Let's talk about the best of Panama.
Okay.
You know a thing or two about the best of Panama.
It's my favorite time of the year.
The best of Panama is your favorite time of the year. It's like coffee people's Christmas.
Yes.
Okay, your father was part of the founding fathers of the Specialty Coffee Association of Panama. Can you tell me a little bit about the history, and then let's dive a little bit into the auction? Maybe give me the history from founding into Geisha being discovered and the sort of aha moments that changed everything.
My grandfather and a bunch of coffee producers, they got into the 1991 coffee crisis. You know, you can look into the history of the International Coffee Agreement all the way into when it was broken.
Okay.
So that affected Panama really bad. Panama's cost of production is much higher than Costa Rica, Colombia, and other places around us. So that forced most of them into a new type of agriculture, mostly the younger generations, which was my father, early 30s, Ricardo Coiner, early 30s, and this group. And they had this they had this help from the USAID to create this program for non-conventional agricultural products. So they created this guild, and he started doing the onions, the berries, and blah blah, different products. None of them work for Panama.
Okay.
Panama doesn't have that much productivity. Panama's prices of production are higher than many places around the world. So there was not too much going on there. So one of the things that my father was facing was the fact that they were exporting onions from the United States into Panama, and he wasn't competitive enough to export his onions into the United States or anywhere else. So the competition was very hard for him to stay as a producer of onions. So in one of the visits, to negotiate, agreements of how we can put tariffs into the onion production into Panama from the United States, what can we do? He ran into a Starbucks. This is in 1994, 1995 early. He ran into a Starbucks that had like this mola artisanal product. Mola is a Panamanian traditional art. It says Panama La Florentina. La Florentina used to be a coffee farm from Panama, from an American guy, had family in Panama. And he was selling directly to Starbucks because of some friends they had. Back then coffee was at 60 cents a pound. Starbucks would pay 180 a pound. So it was a big deal to buy from Starbucks. And Starbucks was, they were the bridge.
Yeah, sure.
They saw this and they went crazy. Like, that is a huge opportunity. So he called his friends back in the guild from non-conventional products. We have to go back into coffee. We have to go back into coffee. And then you have, there's a small group that started. The first ones were Ricardo Coiner, my father. So Ricardo was also part of the guild, also former coffee producer.
Yeah.
Hey, we have to go into coffee, back into coffee. Ricardo, my father, they started getting meetings. And then there's this gentleman that came from the United States that he was doing mainly milk, big milk production. But in the 80s, he started planting coffee. And, as opposed to the local guys that had a lot more like a campesino mindset, more close-minded, this American guy, more open-minded, with a lot of connections in the United States. They call, hey, Mr. Price, we are thinking about creating the commission for specialty coffee into the guild. Cretspan was the name of the guild. And Mr. Price like, hey kids, I think you're doing a great idea, but I'm gonna join only with one condition. Which one? Forget about a commission. You have to create a Specialty Coffee Association of Panama. And that's how they started. And then they gathered a few people. Some of them were the founding members. And like the founding members is my father, Ricardo, Price, Hunter's father, former owner of Lerida, who was my father's best friend, and two more that are not in Panama anymore. Well, the Don Pepe's father and another guy that moved to Bolivia. So there's the first 7 members.
Okay.
And then they travel into Costa Rica for Sinter Cafe. I remember perfectly a bus picking up my parents. They were going to Costa Rica. And in Costa Rica, they came to the SCA and they say, we are opening a association. We need help. And they said, okay, we're going to give you the space for free in the next convention in New Orleans. So that's how they started Specialty Coffee Association of Panama.
This is
1995.
Okay.
Parallel to this, they have a friend that used to be Ricardo Coiner's roommate in college. He's from Boquete. He's called Mario Serracin. Mario was studying a PhD in the University of Hawaii, and he was in Kona, working with the coffee farmers in Kona to get his PhD. And he, Kona was not in the same situation of producing coffee because he's part of the United States. They were paid more and so on and so on. So Kona were doing also better research and everything. So he said, what makes Kona coffee great is characteristics that Panama also has. So then there was a lot of inside information. And the Kona people, they had a competition with copying and an art exhibition at the same time. And they were like, hey, you should do this. The first Best of Panama was an art competition and a coffee competition at the same time.
Okay.
Of course, the art competition only lasted a year. So that's how the first Best of Panama started. And how did they get the judges? When they asked for help to the SCA, the SCA said, okay, some of our board members and friends can be the first judges. So that's how it started. So we are very thankful for the SCA because the SCA helped Panama, start. And also the Hawaiians helped Panama big time to start. Now, there was a huge gossip in the coffee industry back then, nothing to do with SCAP, but there was coffee from Kona being sold partly like Kona coffee, but it was mixed between Panamanian and Kona coffee. Even the guy got arrested for
fraud,
tax evasion. That was the
tax
charge he
evasion.
was. Yeah.
Okay.
His name is Michael Norton. You can look at it. I only have 10 more minutes, so I cannot go deep into the details of this story. But the story's out there. It's pretty interesting. And then there was a little bit of a tension between the Hawaiians and the Panamanians about this. But then Mr. Price took it into the positive. He flipped it into the opposite. He got the newspaper and put in Panama booths. It's Kona coffee is great, but Panama coffee is also great. They were able to confuse it with ours. So it helped a lot. He was also very strategic into, young guys need to go into every single lecture the SCA does and always present yourself and talk about Panama. Talk about Panama as much as you can. So that was a really cool experience, how they were mentored by this. He's a great gentleman, very smart. So it was very cool how they started. And of course, getting the Best of Panama. At the beginning, it was only bragging rights. So bragging rights allow you to have, feedback if you were not one of the good ones, and bragging rights to sell your coffee if you were one of the ones that placed higher.
The first few years, no auction.
96, 97, 98, 99, 2000. 2001, Best of Brazil that ended up being part of the Alliance for Coffee Excellence. The Best of Brazil created an auction.
Okay.
So the Best of Brazil does an auction, and immediately the guys from SCAP, my father and his colleagues, we need to do an auction. Oh, they looked online. Who's click? Hey, we also want to do an auction like the Brazilians did, and they did it. And they started the auction, and then immediately it was a positive outcome. The coffees were sold for $4, $4.80 a pound the first year, $2.37, $3.06, the top ones. The average was around $1 something when the coffee in the sea market was around 60 cents back then. So it was a positive outcome. If I go back into the story of the geisha coffee, it will take me a long time. But the Pearsons were able to find this farm that happened to have this magical variety that changed everything. Price got the farm. Price is the father of Daniel and Rachel, who are today the main faces of the farm.
Yeah.
So Daniel, is a very patient guy. And then he's young back then. He's younger. That's why he wasn't in the original story, because he was younger. He finished university. He was learning about coffee copying and stuff. And he told his father, let's not just rush into, planting Caturra and Catuay. That's what everybody knew. Let's be patient. Let's see the behavior of each plant. And he was lucky enough to find out that there was a completely different tree that behaved very well against rains. And then he found out what this was. And he was told this is geisha coffee. It was brought in the 60s to combat leaf rot, but people stopped using it because it's a very unproductive tree. But you can continue planting it for raining purposes. And he did. And then he was very patient. And then he decided to taste separating. Back then, people will not separate variety because nobody was thinking about variety. People were thinking about farms and farmer areas. But Daniel decided to do it separately. And he tasted it, and he found, a few people, what do you think about this coffee? It's completely different. What do you think about this coffee? And then, you know what? Somebody from the United States, a former copying instructor told him, put it in the West of Panama. There's nothing to lose. And he did, and that changed the whole history.
It
First
changed
year,
our lives.
$21 a pound, which was a huge deal. Last year was $30,000 a kilogram, which is a huge deal. But that $21 a pound represented, endless possibilities.
Right.
And of course, there are optimists and there are pessimists. My father being an optimist, he wanted to tear down every single tree that was not geisha and only plant geisha. But a lot of pessimists said, now the Petersons have the geisha, only them. So once more producers get more geisha, the prices are going to start dumping. And it was completely the opposite. The first year, there were multiple producers with geisha coffee. It was in 2013. And
Wow.
they broke a record that year, $350 a pound, an unimaginable record. It was an unimaginable record. The previous one was $170. So it was basically doubling. And that was the first year there were multiple meaning more than 5. And then he continued, and he continued, and he continued. Today, only in the best of Panama, there are 40 geishas. Only in the best of Panama, there are 40 geishas. Plus all the private auctions out there. And still, number one natural got $23,000 a kilogram, and number one wash got $30,000 a kilogram. So that shows you that this is just starting, which is amazing. And I think that the best of Panama's representation in the world for the coffee industry, it's a game changer. Sometimes it's hard to describe or explain, maybe because Daniel's personality is more quiet. It's not the same me telling his story that he telling his own story, but what he did to the industry, what he discovered and what he put in the best of Panama changed the industry for everybody. And because people are expecting to have the same results. When I was going to have my private auction in 2021, because we were running it since 2018, it's hard and expensive. That's why we didn't do it in the first year. When we were planning on this, I got somebody from another country ask me, what do you think about doing an auction? And I told them, very straightforward, and sorry to sound cocky, but it's the truth. The auctions are a great system to sell coffee. They will add more value to your coffee. The problem is that the majority of farmers are expecting Esmeralda outcomes. And I told him, we can expect Esmeralda outcomes, but not everybody can. And if you have the right, the right goal in mind, you will be very happy with the results. So I think in many countries, by not getting $30,000 a kilogram for a coffee, they don't see it that way. But the prices of coffee today in specialty coffee, the outcomes of the different Cup of Excellence and other competitions are so much better because of the results coming out of Best of Panama.
Right.
That started with Esmeralda, but it's a Best of Panama collective accomplishment. And you see it. Now you've been in Panama.
Yeah.
Everybody in Panama shares the excitement. It's not only shared by the one that won the Best of Panama or the record of the
Right.
year.
A
It's
high
shared.
tide raises all ships.
And it is like that, It's crazy. Today you see that second and third place is getting thousands of dollars. Before, when the first time, it was not too long ago, the first time there was a $1,000 mark in a coffee, it was like, what happened? And now it's something that many coffees get. And it's not only about the money, it's about what this industry can be and what the whole industry can accomplish.
Tell me, what is that?
I think that
in your perspective, what can the industry be and what can we accomplish? Where do we go from here?
so. The problem is that many producers are still thinking that as a commodity, even successful ones.
Yeah.
And we are not a commodity anymore. We have to start treating and thinking of our product as something special, as something, like the Italians do with the olive oil, like the Italians or French do with the wines, and many other people around the world. We are in Central America, and normally it's, cacao from Central America, Venezuela, Ecuador, it's cacao. The chocolate is the Swiss. The coffee is back then they think about the Italians, now they think about the markets. But we have the product that is special, that makes things completely different. And we have to start thinking that way. And we have to start believing that what we have is something that is so much higher that we can be a little bit more exquisite in our markets, in where we go and how we place our product. Don't sell it just to anybody, sell it to the right people, because we have that power. And then everybody else does that too. Costa Rica, they may not have the same level of geisha and Esmeralda has, but they do have so much better product than the majority of the coffee out there. And then understanding the big differences. Brazil represents something for the industry. We represent something else from the industry.
Okay.
And there will be bigger countries, like in Honduras, for example, that they will have both representations, from the high end, or Colombia, to the commercial stuff. And then the other thing is that many consumer activists in the industry need to stop, trying to solve the problems of the C market. Because if we, in the Specialty Coffee Association, need to solve the problem of the C market, then we're going to lose the focus. We need to make the specialty coffee better, as best as possible, and then eventually the C market is going to be part of the rising of the tide. But it's completely different products. It's completely different products. And I think we have to start thinking about, the way chefs think about it. Why every chef will serve you the best wines, the best fish, the best meat, but they will still be working with Lavazza. Lavazza pays them, of course, but at the end, it's because there's no shame. If they understand that we have the product we have, they will want to work with us. And a start is the Nordic countries, like Noma, and they will work with Tim Windelbow. Now Noma has their own roastery. But once we understand what we have, we can be with the right minds, and the right minds will, improve this whole industry better. Because if you see the prices we've got with the Best of Panama in the recent years, it shows you that there's an unmet demand that is still out there.
Right.
We just have to know how to get there. And we just have to know to understand what we have. And that's the best way. And one thing that I say is that I am from a rural town, small town from Central America. But now I have a product that I can speak of. I have the voice. Now you are platforming me. And I want to be a voice, not only for the Panamanian producers, but for all the producers in the world. The specialty coffee producers that can, that can think of achieving what I've achieved, and the non-specialty coffee producers that can also be benefited from this. So we have a product that is special. Coffee should stop being treated as a commodity. And the people in the consuming world that complains about when a C market goes higher and they say, oh, now I have to pay $1 more for my cup of Joe, $1 more for your cup of Joe in a place that you can earn $15 an hour as a minimum wage, is so little compared to that $1 more to a producer in Honduras or in Colombia or in many other places around the world.
Right.
So if people start thinking like this, and I can still advocating for this, it's going to change the whole industry.
Boom. Okay, I got one more question.
Yeah.
The future of coffee, do you believe it is in geisha, or do you believe research, development, and investment in other varieties, similar to the way Daniel, as you referenced earlier, the patience and letting and watching that grow, do you think that's worthwhile? Or are you more of the belief that geisha is the future and Lamastus Family Estates will produce the best geisha in the world? Where do you sit on that?
I think that the future of coffee, it's much more than just one variety. When we talk about the future of coffee, there are varieties that were developed into places that, for example, La Marsellesa variety that can taste better in lower lands, that's a future of coffee because you can get a better price for a place that with a traditional variety you will not get. At the same time, you have the potential of geisha being so high. You know, it has not got there yet. But at the same time, you have to be open to any possibility of anything that will be coming into us in the near future. So we have one thing in our project, in our company, in our family. We don't have to be the first. So we're lucky to have colleagues that are willing to do the investment into planting hundreds of varieties into exploring the future of coffee. If they find something better than geisha, they are the right people to have it. They are the right people to put it in the market, and they are the right people to win with this. Once that happens, we will be able to follow them the same way we did with geisha, and we will be happy not to be the first, but to be part of this. So I do believe that whenever there's people willing to do this investment of time, experience, money, it's a great thing for the industry because I'm open to anything. Our style is a little bit different. We're willing to, just focus on what we have right now and what that we know it works. But the beautiful thing about this industry is that people is willing to share their knowledge. And sharing this knowledge, it is the best for everybody because the first people that got geisha coffee shared it. Every single business-minded person will told them back then that they were crazy. Mm-hmm. And they sold the coffee at $21 a pound. Now it's $30,000 a kilogram. So, now more than 17 countries has geisha already. Only in the West of Panama, 40 farms offer geisha. So the sharing of the knowledge in this industry will help us achieve that if it happens, if something better than geisha comes. But I trust so much our colleagues that, I think that we have to be open. We have to be open and we have to be helpful to them if something gets better than geisha. And I want to say one more. Probably is a little bit controversial, but this is very important to understand why I'm saying it. In terms of future, we can also consider the part of money. Money means what you can accomplish selling your coffee. I know people hate infused coffee. I think infused coffee doesn't have a fit in the best of Panama because it's a completely different thing that you want to show to the world. We are focusing on our unique terroir.
Yeah.
That's why infused doesn't fit in best of Panama. It doesn't fit in the market. It has a market. It has to be labeled properly. But of course, it's a livelihood for many producers that can improve their earnings and the potential of earning in their farms.
So you're pro-infused coffees?
No, but I think that the people that are doing it for the right reasons, but it has to be labeled and it has to be separated from things like Best of Panama and competitions that are trying to focus on terroir.
But there's a purpose for it, there's a benefit for it.
There's a purpose for it that will bring a better economical outcome for many families. Right. And I will always be pro that. The only thing is that you have to be careful of what you use. Also, it's important to label.
Of course.
And there are many farmers that are labeling it, and I think they have a great market. They have a lot of buyers, and they're doing great.
Yeah.
Which I don't see about. At the end of the day, there's roasters that flavor coffee. Why don't you flavor it yourself in the farm, and you can earn a little bit more, which is fine. But it's completely different markets. And I think that's the most important thing to understand. When people use the sticker infused like this, I don't like it because it's somebody else's earn of living. But at the same time, I understand why they're doing it. It's because it's not the same industry. Mm-hmm. It's different industries. Commercial coffee is a different industry than specialty coffee. Infused coffee is a different industry than this. So I think it's just different industries, and I don't think people want. I don't like as a group. I don't want people that do this to think that Best of Panama hates them. We just don't think it fits in the same type of offer we're trying to.
It's
to
not
get to the world.
For your game.
It's not our game. It's a different game. It's a different game. Completely different game.
I gotcha. I got one last one. I know we're 20 minutes over our 10 minutes. What does coffee mean to you?
I was thinking you were going to ask me about the world of coffee. coffee is my livelihood. You know, my everything that has to do with my farm. I'm not just a coffee grower. I'm not just a coffee barista. I'm also a every single occasion I can have is for coffee tasting. I taste coffee. I drink coffee. I visit coffee shops. I try coffee from different parts of the world. That's what everything. For me, coffee, it's, you know, taste, family, friends, you know, when you are anxious, when you are celebrating, when you are sad, everything for me, energy, everything. It's my life. And you have to allow me to do one more thing.
Hit it. Yeah, give me the promotion. World of Coffee Panama, baby.
World of
Let's
Coffee
go.
Panama. We worked very, very hard for this.
Yeah.
The SCA gave us the vote of confidence to do the World of Coffee in Panama, but it's not only the World of Coffee. This is the World of Coffee in Latin America. Panama is the first place that it's going to happen. Because it's Latin America, it's not Panama. First one is going to be in Panama, but the most important part is we're going to have the World Barista Championship happening in Panama, which was a dream to me, and now it's accomplished. And we're going to have it in October 23 to 26. So I hope as many people of the industry come. Panama is a beautiful country. Many people have come to Boquete. Panama City is a beautiful city. And I think that not only my coffee shop, many coffee shops in Panama City are so great. You come into a coffee shop in Panama City, you taste the coffees there, you're gonna have a blast. I really, really recommend people to come to the World of Coffee in Panama. Enjoy the Barista Championship, enjoy the coffee shops and the food. It's great.
You'll be there. I'll be there. Hopefully some other people will come too. Wilford, thanks, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.